We just kicked off the 2020 harvest season, so we typically like to have a big dinner for our winemaking team, and I like to cook a big piece of meat. So today we're gonna braise some pork shoulder, make some homemade tortillas, and pickles in escabeche style. First, we'll get our meat braising in the oven because that'll take 3 to 4 hours. So I have, this is a 5-pound pork shoulder, and this is actually bone in. I think it's best if you can get bone in because then the bone helps impart some extra flavor. But I've cut it down into smaller pieces here. So first we'll just season this with salt and pepper and then get the rest of our braise items together. So I'm gonna be pretty generous here with some salt. Ideally you do this a day in advance and leave it in the fridge overnight to absorb. And now we have a hot pan here, put some olive oil in, and then we're gonna brown this on all sides. You wanna find the fattiest side and put that part down first, and that'll help render the fat out. And we'll probably do this in 2 phases because you don't wanna overcrowd the pan, and the meat will start steaming. We really want it to get golden and crispy. While this is going, we can dice our onion, that'll go into the braise. This is a torpedo onion, but you can use a white onion or a yellow onion. We have about 1.5 teaspoons of coriander seeds, so we'll toast those up in here and then put them in our mortar and pestle. And now we'll pound these. They don't have to be too fine, but broken down a bit. We're gonna toast up our chilies in the cast iron pan. We have 2 spicy chilies and 2 sweet. Some are pasilla, paprika, little ají dulce. Now let's check on our pork. It's looking nice and golden, so we'll flip it over. You really want to let these go and get dark because that'll develop a lot of flavor. We'll let these cool and then we'll remove the stem and the seeds. We'll also add 3 cloves of garlic that we can just keep whole. We'll smash it. Just stir that in with the onion. We can add the coriander here too. We're gonna saute the onions with all the other aromatics. So now these are cool. I'm gonna remove the stems and then the seeds so it doesn't get too spicy. I'm just tearing these up a little bit and then I'm gonna grind them in the spice grinder. You can also do this in the blender. Potatoes and margarita. We'll just add this to our onions. I might hold a little bit back. We'll see how spicy it is. And our pork is sounding kind of like deeper. So let's go check that. I think we can pull it. Pull these off, get our last piece in here. Okay, so we have our onion, garlic, chilies, coriander. I think that was it. We'll add a bay leaf to that. That's all gonna go in our pot. 1 jalapeno I'm gonna cut in half. A lime, which we'll squeeze so we can get that cut. And then verjus and Modelo. We should probably taste that. Make sure it's good. It's good. So I'm just gonna cut some of the stems off the bottom and we're gonna put some stems in with the meat as it's braising. The stems have a lot of flavor and are pretty tender. So you should use your cilantro stems. Just tie it up with a string so we can easily pull it out. Here's all our braised ingredients. So we can remove this last piece of pork and then add all of our aromatics right here into all of this pork fat. Just let these onions get soft a little bit. And then also we want to like scrape up all those good porky bits at the bottom. I'm gonna add a pinch of salt to this. Season those onions. It smells so good. This is looking pretty good and tender, so I'm gonna add about a cup of water. and that'll deglaze it a little further. And you can really scrape up all those porky bits. Okay, we'll add our cilantro. Juice the lime in there. Now a few tablespoons of verjus. Lastly, the Modelo. Now we'll add all the pork to this. Nestle it all in there. So we got everything in here. We're gonna throw a lid on top. It'll probably take 3 to 4 hours. We'll wanna rotate them maybe every hour, and then they're done when you, well, I'll show you, but you pierce them with a fork and or a knife, and it'll come out tender. But yeah, get her in. 325 degree oven. Woohoo, we did it. Okay, now that our pork's in the oven, we can make our pickles. Here I have a cup of distilled white vinegar, a tablespoon of sugar, and a teaspoon and a half of salt. And the juice of 1 lime. Now we'll just stir this until the sugar and salt have dissolved. This is a cold brine. Some brines you heat up on the stove and pour hot over the vegetables. We're gonna keep this one chilled. So I'm gonna pickle a jalapeno, some sliced onion, some radish, and some cucumber. Because our favorite taco truck has pickled cucumbers. And if you know, you know. They're best if they can be in the fridge for like 3-4 hours, and they'll last maybe for a week. Okay, lastly, we're gonna make our homemade tortillas. I have masa harina here. If you have, I mean, of course you can just buy tortillas. If you have a good Mexican market, they can sell you fresh masa, and that's probably the best. If not, you can just buy masa harina from the grocery store, and this is 2 cups of that with a half a teaspoon of salt. We'll mix that up and then add 1.25 cups of hot water. Now I'm just gonna kind of knead it for a few minutes just to bring it all together and fully hydrate all the masa. Okay, our masa is fully mixed. Now we'll just cover it in plastic and let it rest for about an hour until we're ready to shape it into balls and press it. And in the meantime, we wait for our pork to be done and just drink some wine. I can smell the pork, it smells delicious. Let's check it out. Ooh, simmering. Yeah, so we'll check it by poking it with a knife. Oh yeah, and it's totally coming out. So we're there, we're done. So I'll let this cool here for a few minutes before we pull the meat out and shred it up a bit. Now I'm gonna shape the masa into little balls. 2 cups of masa will probably give like 18 or so tortillas. I kind of like smaller, street taco style size. And this should be the texture of Play-Doh. You don't want it too wet or else it'll stick to the press or stick to the pan. All right, now we'll just cover these with a damp towel and shred the pork. That's the bone piece. And then our broth is all ready to go. We'll just remember to remove that cilantro bundle. Let's just have a little nibble. Now I don't want to stop. Now we'll just slice this up a little bit to encourage the shredding. And this is when you can remove anything that you don't want in there. Here's our piece with the bone. So once it's cooked, it's really easy to just pop the bone out. It'll just come free. It's best if you can let it cool in the broth, and that'll help it not dry out and keep absorbing all that flavor. And this is delicious if you make it a day or even 2 days in advance, and it'll just keep getting better and better. I'm gonna add one more lime to this. Just brighten it all up a little bit. Final step to building our tacos is pressing and cooking our tortillas. I have a tortilla press here. If you have one of these, that's great. It'll make this very easy. If not, you can use a rolling pin. And I have these like thicker pieces of plastic lining both sides. So put one ball down in the middle and press, and then flip it and do the same thing so it's even. And then this is where the moisture level is important. You don't want it to stick here, and you want to be able to easily remove it from this plastic. And then we'll cook it in a cast iron pan that's nice and hot. So this has been cooking on the first side for maybe a minute. You can tell the edges are starting to cook a little bit. So we're gonna flip it over, let it cook, I don't know, for another 20 seconds or so. You can see it's kind of starting to poof up a little. Voila! Tortilla. Okay, now we build a taco. Grab a fresh tortilla. Get a little bit more. Squeeze a lime, and then maybe some pickled jalapeno. Let's try this baby. It's juicy. It's great. I'm gonna get like 6. There's a nice little bit of heat from those chilies, and then the bright pickles. Homemade tortilla. What more do you need?